Sora and Shiro were a pair of EBT-using slackers who spent their lives doing nothing but thrashing other weebs in video games. But one day, when they defeated a mysterious user in a game of chess, they accidentally agreed to be isekai'd to another world, where gaming was a way of life, and everything is decided by high-stakes games. Now tasked with the role of guiding the race of humanity and the goal of overthrowing the unhinged god of this world, they're excited beyond belief. Their journey, however, isn't without facing some legendary ranked gamers along the way. In a mysterious world, a set of flashy warriors engaged in a fight to the death, both sides aiming to steal the victory. A lone girl faces a group of OP warriors who had already made quick work of thousands before her. After spamming multiple attacks like a machine, she thought she finally had them. But to her surprise, the opponents escaped her greatest move and defeated her with one legendary counter. In this mysterious world of gaming, a duo known as the Blank was legendary, so unbeatable that everyone and they mama thought they were cheaters, with perfect win records across all games. They named themselves Blank to remain anonymous, boosting their aura and mystery. When a fodder gamer asked the Blank's last opponent if they were just bots with cheat codes, she confessed they didn't cheat. In fact, she was the cheater, making it even more impressive that they caught a scumbag like her. She was so amazed by the quality of the gamers that she shook her biddies, wondering how incredible they would be in real life. But as disappointing as reality always is, they were merely a pair of sibling shut-ins. The elder brother, Sora, was an 18-year-old game addict with siscon tendencies, while his younger sister Shiro was an 11-year-old recluse. After finishing a round, Sora sees his sister is controlling the game with her feet, so he told her to get her crusty ass toes off the controllers. But Shiro ignored him and explained that she was hungry from their winning streak, then offered him food, which he accepted. She emphasized that nutrition was vital for efficient gaming, but Sora disagreed, claiming the brain only needed glucose. When Sora asked for the time, Shiro told him it was 8 a.m. and dismissed the date as unimportant since they were bums. But when Sora tried to explain its relevance, Shiro fell asleep out of boredom, causing Sora to panic. They'd been gaming non-stop for 5 days without sleep, weakening Shiro, so she passed her controllers to Sora, forcing him to control all 4 characters of Blank and maintain the streak alone, while she took a much-needed lolly nap. Before long, a message popped up on one of their devices, waking Shiro, but she couldn't be bothered and told Sora to pick it up. When Sora complained about gaming all day, Shiro pointed out that it was his dumb choice, so deal with it, and also, the message could be from a girl. After realizing she hurt her brother's feelings because he clearly gets no bitches, Shiro checked the message. To her surprise, the message was addressed to the Blank, and the sender somehow knew they were siblings. When Sora opened the link in the message, they were invited to a game of chess, which didn't appeal to Shiro, but Sora begged her to play since she was much better. Shiro took the wheel and prepared to defeat the opponent, as she's a pro that's easily defeated high-level bots in the past. To their surprise, the opponent deliberately made an amateur move, which would be impossible for a bot, so Sora cautioned Shiro to take it easy. He grabbed her and put her in his lap like the siscon he is, and told her he'd help her defeat the opponent. Before long, they defeated the opponent in a tough game and received another message. The mysterious person asked if the twins believed they were born in the right world and if they were satisfied with their lives. The message described a world that operated like the games they loved, with special rules and a fixed goal. Sora responded saying they'd be happier in a world like that over the trashy, bum-ass, stupid-ass, ugly-ass, judgmental-ass, capitalist-ass, racist-ass, bitch-ass. They'd be happier in a world like that over the one they currently live in. After sending the email, their room immediately turned bizarre, like something out of a poorly made horror movie. Suddenly, a mysterious figure emerged from the screen and welcomed them, causing their room to open up like a box, revealing they've been isekai'd without Truck-kun. As the siblings fell from the sky, the mysterious person revealed himself and introduced them to the world of Disboard, a utopia where everything was decided by games. When Shiro asked who he was, he introduced himself as Tet, the god of this world. But Sora was more concerned with the ground getting closer, threatening to turn them into pancakes. Rather than help, Tet continued to yap about the world and its 10 commandments. Realizing Tet was useless, Sora braced himself to cushion Shiro's fall. But when he came to, he realized they stopped just before hitting the ground, thanks to Tet's help. But when he tried to question him, Tet already dipped. After getting to their feet, the siblings beheld a giant red dragon and realized they'd been isekai'd without their consent, now in a gaming world with no manual or instructions to guide them. The siblings teared up, unprepared to embrace their new crappy game. Before long, they engaged another group and thoroughly beat their asses in a game. The bummy sumo wrestlers were forced to drop all their belongings and explain the world to the siblings, having lost the bet and their dignity. Now, the siblings understood the world better and obtained provisions for their journey. Later, at an inn somewhere in the world, a tournament was being held with a kingdom's throne at stake. 2 girls were currently engaged in a game, the first panicking, the second composed, while onlookers, including the siblings, watched to see how the game would progress. When Sora asked how the throne ended up in such a position, a butter-faced woman explained that the previous king was a whimsical gambler who wanted his successor to be just as good a gambler as he was. The panicking girl was his granddaughter, Stephanie Dola, who was useless with cards, while the composed girl was Cora May, who had already defeated multiple players that day. After Shiro asked why the hideous lady was abstaining from the tournament, she explained that she wasn't interested in becoming queen of a poor nation. But Sora wasn't having it, as he continued to provoke her, teasing her about her bummy makeup. Before long, he convinced her to play a game staking all her money, while he staked his life. They swore the oath and the game began. The lady swiftly shuffled and dealt the cards, and upon checking her hand, she believed it was strong enough to teach the rude boy a lesson and claim his life. When it was time to reveal their hands, she brought out her full house and boasted about her win, but she immediately ate her words when Sora revealed a royal flush, blindsiding her. She admitted her loss and handed over all her money, feeling as bad as her cake face looked. After leaving the game, Shiro asked why Sora cheated when it was against the rules, so he explained that cheating was allowed as long as they didn't get caught. Before long, the siblings approached the counter to get a room with 1 gold piece, but the receptionist kept trying to cheat them. After catching his BS twice, Sora threatened the receptionist and secured a room for the siblings to use until they could gather themselves. Before leaving, Shiro pointed out that Cora May was cheating, so on his way out, Sora pretended to trip and slyly informed Stephanie of the cheat. Once they got to their room, they discussed what they discovered and reassured each other that they would continue to enjoy their journey in this new, crappy world. Later that day, the siblings received an unexpected visitor knocking at the door. To their surprise, it was Stephanie, one towel drop away from giving my viewers a good time. After being allowed in, Stephanie took a seat and began questioning Sora about the situation in the tavern. Not knowing what she was talking about, Sora clarified that Shiro was his little sister and told her not to get the wrong idea. Stephanie shut that down immediately and said she don't give a fuck. Why did you tell me Cora May was cheating, but refused to tell me how? Sora didn't answer her question directly. Instead, he provoked her, calling her a dumb bitch who couldn't spot a cheat. Worried about losing her kingdom, Stephanie pressed on, but Sora dodged the question again and insulted her grandfather, calling him a false king, careless, no Bugatti, not a top G. Stephanie became infuriated by his insults and demanded he take it back, but instead, he kept pushing her buttons, trying to trigger her. When she finally had enough, Stephanie moved in to slap him, but Sora immediately clapped his hands, getting her attention. He then proposed a game of rock, paper, scissors to settle the conflict, offering to handicap himself by only shooting paper. Sora bet that if she won, he'd tell her how Cora May cheated, but if he won, she'd have to do him a favor. Stephanie agreed, and they swore the oath, ready to shoot their shots. Stephanie racked her brain trying to figure out how to win. Sora explained that if he played anything other than paper, he'd lose, but if his move beat hers, it would result in a draw. Stephanie believed a draw would leave her dissatisfied, as he'd only give a hint about the cheat, so she desperately tried to avoid both losing and drawing. After carefully calculating her options and trying to get inside Sora's head, Stephanie thought she cornered him, but when they played their moves, Sora threw a rock while she threw scissors, forcing a draw, shocking her. When she asked why he didn't play paper, Sora explained that she was easy to read like a picture book. She was so busy trying to get into his head that she didn't realize he was already in hers. After explaining he followed the 10 commandments of the world, Sora made his request, shocking everyone but my viewers. The loser requested Stephanie fall in love with him, explaining to Shiro that this would make Stephanie follow their every whim. But Shiro called him out, saying he was just a loser perv and could have simply requested she become his property, which would have been easier and more honest. Accusing Sora of having an ulterior motive, Shiro cast him away for betraying her trust, causing him to panic and do a weak front flip while begging for her forgiveness. When Stephanie saw Sora begging, she felt jealous, but when she realized the oath was taking effect, she immediately screamed out the window, worried about her troublesome emotions. After composing herself, Shiro requested that Stephanie be called Steph, and once again the oath kicked in, forcing her to politely accept, then promptly slam her head against the wall in frustration. Shiro accepted the situation and teased her brother about finally being able to lose his virginity, but Sora and Steph froze at the thought. Seeing that Sora wouldn't make a move, Shiro kicked him forward, causing him to fall on Stephanie and accidentally grab her biddies. When Shiro saw the Lucky Lecher scene, she immediately took pictures to document her brother's first biddy feel. Realizing that the incident could be passed off as a random accident, Sora let his male instincts take control and started playing with the biddies in front of him. But even though the oath compelled Stephanie to let him continue, she gathered her strength and kicked him out of the room. When she ran out to check if he was okay, Stephanie found him panicking, apologizing for letting his perv show. As if that wasn't enough, she realized Shiro was also spazzing, looking for her brother, making Stephanie realize they were a package deal who shouldn't be allowed apart. After the siblings reunited, she invited them to her castle, where she bathed Shiro and listened to Sora's side of the story. While taking the bath, Steph asked Sora why he stayed away from the girls inside the bathroom. Sora told her that Shiro hated baths because if he looked at her, it would be criminal. but likewise, if they stayed too far apart, problems would arise. When Sora's perv kicked in again, he tried to use his phone to see Stephanie in her full glory, but Shiro tricked him by folding her arms to look like biddies, fooling the sock addict. Before long, Steph clothed Shiro in some of her hand-me-downs while she wore hand-me-downs from a garbage truck. Upon seeing Sora, her mind instantly went bizarre as the oath kicked in again, reminding her of her love for the bum. She instantly smashed her head on the wall and pulled herself together, leaving the room to get tea and cookies for her new guests. While making the tea, she continued to fantasize about Sora, making it seem less like the oath, but then smashed her head again, causing the surrounding maids to panic. When she returned with the tea and her bleeding head, she couldn't find the siblings until she reached the balcony, where they posed like models from a fashion show. She approached the twins, and when Sora asked about the kingdom, she explained it was named Elkia, the last of the Imanitian nations. She told the twins about humanity, and how there were 16 races living in the world of Disboard. Although there was magic, humanity possessed none, making them the lowest ranking and most pathetic race, which also led to their loss of land outside Elkia. When Sora asked for the library, Stephanie took the siblings there, but unfortunately he couldn't read or understand the humanity language. To their amazement, Shiro quickly closed a book and announced that she had learned the language and finished a book. While Sora praised his sister, Stephanie stood in amazement, wondering how the siblings became so intelligent. She gained hope that her newfound friends would be the heroes to save humanity from the oppression of magic in their world. Meanwhile, Korome continued to defeat opponent after opponent in her quest to take over the throne of Elkia. Later that day, Blank and Steph came across Korome while passing through a hallway in the castle, and Korome decided it was time for some shit talk. After teasing her about her bum-ass, dirty-ass, hand-me-down-ass, hobo-off-the-street-looking ass, after teasing her about her clothes, Korome threw down Stephanie's clothes and told her to pick up the garbage her stupid grandfather left for her. When Stephanie attempted to pick it up, Sora told her it was dumb and handed the outfit back to Korome, explaining that it was against the covenants to go against a bet. Seeing the arrogance in Sora, Korome teased Stephanie, claiming that stupidity spread to her servants. After Korome left, Sora told Stephanie not to worry, as the Blank would use their full might to take back the throne from their first big boss, Korome Zell. On the day of the coronation, the priest announced that Korome was the last standing participant of the tournament. By the previous king's decree, this meant she was next in line for the throne. Meanwhile, Shiro and Sora prepared to crash the party with Stephanie, though she wasn't fully on board. When the priest declared that without a challenger, Korome would be awarded the throne, Sora made a bold entrance, objecting to the holy man's motion. After spotting Stephanie, Korome questioned her, but rather than allow Stephanie to speak, she accused her of needing the help of a foreign nation. Sora then got everyone's attention by revealing that Korome had received magical help from an elf, but Korome quickly denied it, calling Sora a bummy sore loser. Knowing he had her cornered, Sora challenged Korome to a game and exposed the elf's location to the crowd. Korome tried to clear her name, claiming Sora hired the elf to frame her, but after sending the elf away, she accepted his challenge and promised to provide the rules of the game in due time. With the coronation now suspended, Stephanie asked the siblings how they planned to defeat someone backed by magic. Sora reassured her, explaining he already prepared. He also pointed out that the tournament was a bad idea, as another race could install a puppet leader they could control, making it easier to take over the nation. Meanwhile, Korome discussed a new plan to cheat with the elf, believing Sora was also being helped by another race. Back at the palace courtyard, Sora continued to explain his plans to Stephanie until she finally caught on. By calling her out, he's forced her to only use undetectable magic that wouldn't affect them directly. When Stephanie struggled to grasp the full essence of the plan, the siblings declared with certainty that they wouldn't miss their chance to become rulers of Elkia. Just then, Korome appeared and invited them all to her carriage, hoping to negotiate with them. After hearing Korome's reasoning about needing foreign protection from other races, Sora pretended to understand, but it was clear he wasn't buying it. When Korome claimed they had no chance of winning and asked them to forfeit, the siblings struck a JoJo pose, declaring that blank doesn't forfeit, even if their opponent has the absolute advantage. After striking the pose, the siblings celebrated their unshakable confidence, making Korome realize she was wasting her time dealing with these airheads. Soon the carriage arrived at the game venue, and both parties were ready to face off. As they walked to the center, Stephanie asked why the siblings didn't accept Korome's offer, but instead of a direct answer, Sora gave her 3 reasons he believed she was a dumbass. 1. Her breath stank. 2. Her raggedy rags stank. 3. If you think I'm gonna really trust this half-pint rag-wearing submissive ass, discount elf look. When they reached the door, Sora steeled his resolve to win and clear the notion that humanity was the weakest race. When they opened the door, they were pleased to find a giant chessboard, especially since Shiro was a chess prodigy. However, Sora remained skeptical, considering the ways Korome might cheat. When Korome explained the rules, Sora informed her that he and Shiro would play as one, which didn't faze Korome, as she had already set her cheat. The priest initiated the game, and Shiro made the first move by advancing a pawn. To their surprise, Korome's pawn moved 3 spaces instead of the usual 2. When Stephanie accused Korome of cheating, Korome pointed out that her rules allowed the chess pieces to move according to the leader's will. Shiro remained undeterred and continued to dominate as a master chess player, with Sora praising her as the god beater. But just as Shiro was about to make another move, her knight refused to obey, causing her to panic. Sora quickly realized it was part of Korome's cheat. The soldiers lacked the will to fight because no soldier would be willing to throw their lives away for some silly game. When Shiro saw this, she was ready to give up, but Sora had an idea and took control. He placed his crying sister on the balcony and yelled out to the soldiers, telling them if we win, they'll never have to work again. They'll get unlimited manga and video games at their command, all the gamer girl bathwater they could ever need, and pizza. Lots and lots of free pizza. The army's will is instantly restored, and after hearing Sora's promise, the soldiers rallied and returned to battle, shocking everyone, including the dirty cheat Korome. Sora led the charge, pushing Korome's forces back and causing her to panic. When Korome had enough, she ordered her king to advance, triggering a new reaction in her pieces. After one of Sora's pawns struck one of her knights, it was brainwashed and switched sides. Sora immediately ordered a retreat, but it was too late. Korome commanded her pieces to attack, making Sora panic. Before long, Korome's queen was in position to strike the opposing king, but just before she could, Sora appeared out of nowhere, pleading with the queen to stop, telling her she's the baddest bitch in the kingdom, and any man would be happy to motorboat dim biddies. He told her to leave that slimy bitch she calls a ruler and be with a real man. His burning passion moved the queen, causing her to switch sides. Now with the enemy queens on their side, Sora felt a spark of hope, though Shiro still had doubts. When Sora began to worry about his strategy, Shiro pointed out a silver lining. Korome ordered one of her knights to kill the traitorous queen, but before it could, the knight had a change of heart as well. With renewed hope and a clear path to victory, Sora handed control back to Shiro, ready to claim the win. After witnessing her purity, the knight bowed down to the queen, leaving Korome baffled as her tricks were no longer working. Seizing the opportunity, Sora began his counter by persuading the queen not just to serve him, but to inspire the other warriors still loyal to Korome's Mad King. Hearing Sora's offer, the queen and her fellow converted pieces transformed red, signaling that Sora's plan had succeeded. When Stephanie asked what happened, Shiro explained that Sora had incited a revolt among Korome's pieces, eliminating the need for direct combat. Just then, Stephanie recalled the words of her dumb grandfather, who spoke about the wonders humanity could achieve by leveraging their weaknesses. She looked at Sora in amazement as he changed the battlefield without magic or brute strength, showcasing the true potential of humanity. Shiro ordered the white pieces to support the new red allies, making it nearly impossible for the opponents to strike back. Cornered like prey, Korome attempted to retaliate by forcing her warriors through, but as Sora predicted, her king crumbled under pressure. He explained that the oppression from their leader led to the king's assassination, causing Korome to break down. The priest declared blank as the winners, and Stephanie was overjoyed to have found successors who could outplay magic and conquer games. When Korome confronted blank, she accused them of using magic to cheat, but Sora confidently told her it was pure humanity at work, and that she was simply incompetent, unaware of that blank is Himi Neutron. Stripping away her veil, he flirtatiously declared that blank don't take L's to magic, and that's on God. As Sora finished speaking, Korome began to cry over the stress she endured to enlist the elf's help, prompting Shiro and Stephanie to accuse Sora of hurting a lady, even though he's clearly a bum. The next day, Sora and Shiro were set to be crowned as the new leaders of Elkia, with no one left to challenge them. However, the priest opposed blank taking the throne, claiming it was against the rules to have 2 rulers. When Sora sought to take absolute authority as a representative, Shiro argued that Sora would misuse the power and create a harem, and she's probably right. She suggested she should take the throne instead, but Sora objected, claiming she must be dumber than DBS Goku if she thinks he'll let that slide. Unable to settle the dispute, blank decided to compete against each other, with the winner becoming the absolute authority for humanity. After 3 long days of intense competition, they still couldn't find a winner because they kept trading wins back to back, and Shiro blamed Sora for setting a 2-win streak condition. Exhausted, Sora questioned where it was stated that there could only be 1 ruler, and after Shiro checked, they realized the priest was simply on some bullshit and never thought to actually verify. The following day, Sora and Shiro were officially installed as the new rulers, with Stephanie serving as their aide, dressed like a sexy maid for some reason. Shiro mentioned Steph isn't wearing panties, and Sora was impressed with her 2D effects, but Stephanie quickly shifted the discussion to the nation's pressing issues to avoid embarrassment. Seizing their gamepad, she outlined the multiple problems plaguing Elkia, and the new rulers agreed to address it. Soon after, Blank convened a meeting with the ministers and challenged them to a game to identify and eliminate spies from other nations. After clearing that hurdle, Sora invited the remaining ministers for discussions, tackling various issues easily, leaving Stephanie speechless throughout. With meetings concluded, they prepared to address the nation and usher in a new era for humanity. On their way to the podium, Stephanie asked why they abandoned their royal attire and how they managed to resolve all the issues so easily. Sora replied that he cares more about comfort than drip, and that his knowledge from countless trivia games made him more competent than her dumb's grandfather. Out on the balcony, Sora tried to begin his speech, but suddenly got hit with the shakes. However, Shiro grabbed his hand to boost his confidence, and it instantly amplifying his aura for captivating the crowd. Attention brokies, we are all a bunch of weak bums. We have no magic, we keep losing games, we lost most our land, and all the other races look down on us. How humanity is even still alive is beyond me, but that's okay. In the current age, being weak is our strength. While the other races rely on their natural talents, we're forced to be resourceful, more cunning, like short kings or guys with small penises. Where we lack an ability, we make up with our minds. So hold your head up high and be proud to be weak. To drive the point home, Blank boldly declared war on the other nations, proclaiming they were ready and powerful enough to defeat the other 15 races. Raising their hands to motivate the people, a sudden white light appeared, revealing a chess piece symbolizing the ideals of humanity. With their stance clearly stated, Blank successfully rallied their citizens and reignited the spirit of humanity. As they walked back into the castle, Stephanie questioned why they declared war, and Sora explained that other races would be at a stalemate, wondering which powerful nation was backing Elkia. This gives humanity nothing but time to prepare. After clarifying things for the brain-dead Stephanie, Blank continued to their room while she looked on, beholding the new saviors of humanity. Later, while Blank studied the other races, Tet appeared, turning the entire castle an eerie shade of blue. Shiro called out Tet as a wannabe god, but he assured her he was the real deal. Tet transported them to the roof and asked if they were enjoying their new world. Sora responded by highlighting humanity's problems, but admitted they enjoyed the world as much as they enjoyed defeating Tet in chess, causing the god to laugh. Tet expressed his happiness over isekaiing them, looking forward to their conquest of the other races, and more importantly, their rematch. After Tet vanished, Stephanie appeared, asking why the god visited and if they truly defeated him. They ignored her and instead asked for help to get down, so they could prepare for the next challenge. Meanwhile, in the realm of the gods, Tet was relieved that the first pieces of his puzzle were falling into place, but he was disturbed by a mysterious voice asking if he wanted to destroy humanity. Ignoring the voice, Tet told it to sit back and watch it pop off, now that humanity has a new light. Meanwhile, at Elkia Castle, Stephanie was frustrated with her once-admired saviors because they were ignoring their responsibilities and dumping all the work on her and the ministers. Determined to confront the two bums, Stephanie stormed into their new spooky room, exposing the siblings to light, making them flip out like lil bitches. She demanded they get up and help their nation, but the Blank boastfully refused, declaring they would never work because they're neats. Seeing their reluctance, Stephanie challenged Sora to a duel, asking him to become a decent person if he lost. Sora agreed, but with a twist. He'd only consider losing if the agreement was for him to have inner peace. Shiro quickly dragged him back, reminding him he wasn't allowed to lose to anyone but her, and he's also not allowed to be happy. Damn. The twins continued to mock how impossible it was for Stephanie to win, but she confidently summoned Sora to a room to play blackjack. She claimed it was a game that wouldn't rely on cheap tricks or bluffs, so she'd win easily. However, Sora was already disappointed, and Shiro remained uninterested. Noticing their nonchalance, Stephanie insisted she would win because she'd be the dealer, while Sora was the player. As she shuffled, she remembered her grandfather's words about having an advantage with intuition, so she got slick with shuffling the cards. Thinking she won after the first round, Stephanie was shocked when Shiro revealed their cards in the final round, utterly defeating her. In her mind, she saw her imaginary grandfather telling her, "You're still a dumb bitch though," leaving her finished. When she asked how they won, Sora explained it was simple math, and he saw through her weak attempts to force shuffle, revealing he's a much better cheat than her. Resigned to her fate, Stephanie told the siblings she was off to deal with the nobles who opposed their policies. But to her surprise, Sora asked her not to bother, saying he was interested in hearing their complaints. Before long, the Blank disgraced the nobles and stripped them of their drip, solidifying their position as rulers. Stephanie mentioned there were more opposing members, but she had already worked hard swaying them to their side using tactics she already possessed, surprising the siblings, as they realized she's not such a dumb bitch after all. She then told them she went to college and graduated top of her class, putting the bums in shock, as they've never graduated high school, and Steph is actually smarter than they'd like to give her credit. As punishment for their newfound jealousy, the Blank used their blackjack win to force Stephanie into a doggy suit and took her across town as their pet for the day. They wandered around, looking for a special place, but they couldn't shake the feeling of being stared at. While the siblings were initially terrified by the attention, they were more concerned that people seemed scared of them. Stephanie explained it was because she looked like a werebeast, sending Sora into perv mode as he fantasized about future meetings with werebeast girls. Sora quickly snapped out of it when Shiro reminded him of their current goal, and they set off for their destination, forgetting Stephanie, who they tied to a pole. Hours later, they rested in an alley, unable to find the place they had in mind. When Stephanie caught up with them, She asked why they abandoned her, but Shiro immediately made her sit with the oath compelling her to obey. Realizing she wasn't getting anywhere at this pace, Stephanie attempted to challenge Sora again, this time staking his inner peace, but Shiro intervened, once again reminding him he's not allowed to be happy. She claimed she would be the one to compete with Steph this time. Steph suggested they guess the gender of the next person to pass the alley, and after the game, Shiro mollywopped Stephanie, beating her 9-1. She then demanded Stephanie's panties as a reward, leaving the goods bare as they walked the streets. However, Stephanie continued to challenge the siblings, losing more clothing with each defeat until she was left with nothing but the big outfit. After another defeat, Sora made her wear glasses, and after the final game, they pitied her and didn't ask for any reward. When Stephanie realized she couldn't win, she cried, wondering why she couldn't win even though she had the will of humanity, yelling out, "I'm tired of this, Grandpa." Sora explained that the world didn't run on luck, which was why humanity was the weakest of all races. He told her that with the simplest details, a card could be picked accurately 10 times in a row, making it seem like magic. Information is king. He also explained that they couldn't face the werebeasts yet because they didn't have enough information to challenge them, making Stephanie realize that Blank weren't just goofing off, but were also gathering intel. She began to see them as saviors once again, and appreciated them for handling the issues with the nobles. The Blank then finally thanked her for wearing down the nobles using the little intellect she possessed. She's incredibly grateful, but just then, a mysterious purple glow covered the entire city, freaking out the people, and Shiro pointed to what looked like a floating island. Stephanie informed the siblings that the island was Avenheim, home of the Flugels. When the siblings realized they couldn't reach the island to meet the Flugel, Stephanie told them there was one nearby. She explained that her grandfather had lost a game to a Flugel, sacrificing their library in the process, which infuriated Blank, who wasted their time looking for a library all day. Sora mocked Stephanie for being the dumbass granddaughter of a dumbass king, and soon after, the Blank set foot in the library, ready to challenge the Flugel and win it back, hoping one day soon, Sora could meet some werebeast baddies. Upon entering the room, Blank and Stephanie beheld a majestic being, with wings that introduced herself as Jabril, and Sora said, "Gimme this library on sight." After offering them tea and cookies, Jabril confirmed their intentions to challenge her in a game. She then explained that since Flugels were no longer allowed to kill or fight wars, they now valued knowledge above all else, making the library her lifeblood. She asked Sora what value he could offer in exchange, and he boldly offered 40,000 books from another world, shocking Jabril into a spit take directly on them, probably one of Sora's kinks. She quickly checked the tablet to see if Sora was telling the truth, and after confirming the language was one she didn't know, she accepted it as special, but still doubted their claim of being isekai characters. When Sora asked how she wanted to confirm their origins, she responded by suggesting she could touch his special parts, instantly triggering his blood flow. Before she could proceed, Sora requested he be allowed to touch her as well, which she accepted, leaving Stephanie dumbfounded. Unfortunately for Sora, the Flugel wasn't interested in his power pole, but instead touched his flat chest, while only allowing him to touch her wings. Jabril, however, was getting off on it, inspiring Sora blood flow to rise even faster. After their odd encounter, Jabril accepted that the siblings were from another world, with knowledge beyond her dreams. To make it fair, she decided to raise the stakes, offering her entire life alongside the library, which Blank gladly accepted. However, if she wins, Blank hand over the books and occasionally hang out with her to be studied. Soon after, Jabril took the Blank and Stephanie to the lower chambers of the library, where they would play a game of word chain. The game involved both players saying new words within 30 seconds until one of them ran out of options. She added special conditions. Words describing objects in the room would make those objects disappear, while words not in the room would make those items appear. Jabril warned Sora that death was an option in this game, and the win would go to whoever survived. After both sides confirmed the details, Sora called Shiro to his lap while Jabril set the spell to reset any damage they caused. When the game started, Sora let his inner psychopath out immediately, calling out hydrogen bomb, blowing up the venue. When the dust settled, the Blank was safe, and Jabril explained that her word was a protection spell, which saved their lives. She acknowledged that Sora was testing to see if he could summon words she didn't know. Then Sora called out, "Spirit circuits," robbing Jabril of her magic and flight, though she retained some power, so she'll manage. Jabril responded by summoning a horse, startling Steph. Then Sora responded with, "Naughty bits," making all vaginas disappear, further trolling Steph. Next, Jabril calls a beach, frightening the shut-ins with the sudden light, but Sora retaliates with hooter nubs, making all the biddies disappear. Jabril starts to get it and wants in on the fun, so she summoned bikinis, but Sora immediately shut that down, raging that she should have removed women's clothing first. All the Nimbus viewers demand it, so in her next turn, she ignored his request and summoned a whirlwind. Soon after, Sora answered our prayers and called out, "Women's clothing," making their clothes disappear, leaving the women with nothing but their biddy suits without the biddies. Sora praises his masterpiece, but personally, I'm still not too sure YouTube will allow this. Hours passed as the competitors continued to call out words, while Stephanie ran from strange creatures in the background screaming. Hell no. No. Meanwhile, Sora called out Mantle, and eventually Outer Core, while Jabril simply summoned more creatures. When Sora noticed Stephanie was in trouble, he called out Creature, making most of the summons disappear, saving Stephanie. Jabril continued to look down on humanity, claiming it was only a matter of time before Sora lost, but Sora said "F that" and decided it was time to lock in. The duo thanked Steph for her help, then boldly told her she's about to die. They then charged to the top of the venue and jumped, calling out Lithosphere, making the entire world's surface disappear and send them all into a free fall toward the Earth's core. With her wings disabled and magic gone, Sora believed he could finally kill Jabril, but she was determined to prove Flugel were not as weak as Emanicians, and called out Morning Halo, getting rid of the sun. The siblings took a deep breath and made their next move, calling out Oxygen, choking both Jabril and Stephanie. But Jabril wasn't done yet. She called out Air to replenish the oxygen, but made the crucial mistake of confusing oxygen with air. With oxygen gone, the air filled her blood with poisonous toxins. They continued falling, and the siblings have Jabril right where they want her. When she wondered how they planned to survive, she realized they were passing stored air through mouth to mouth, effective, but a little disturbing. After calling out Atmosphere, they thought they finished off Jabril, since sound was no longer possible. But using her magic, Jabril managed to call out another word, making their plan backfire. To her surprise, the siblings still had one last trick, calling out Coulomb's force on a sheet of paper, causing a big bang, leaving survival to the last one breathing. With Jabril closer to the blast, it's game, set, and match. When the effects of the game reset, Stephanie woke up angry that she was used as a sacrifice, but Sora comforted her, explaining that she was the key to their victory, making it possible for them to win due to her decoy. Jabril reappeared, congratulating Blank on their victory, and amazed that mere humanity could beat her. Sora revealed that they were summoned to the world by Tet, and planned on defeating the god, intriguing Jabril, as she finally recognized the siblings as a force to be reckoned with. Jabril bowed down to Blank, acknowledging them as her masters and the ones destined to take over the world. With a Flugel now on their side, the Blank promised Jabril access to the books from their other world, and welcomed her as the newest member of their Isekai fam. Later that day, Blank returned to the bath with Stephanie, who took care of Shiro, while Sora stayed in his usual hiding spot. While he waited, Jabril startled him out of nowhere, eager to take care of her new masters. She brought along Special H shampoo and started washing Shiro, only for Shiro to stop her mid-perversion. With Jabril pouting and Sora in awe of his sister, Stephanie wondered how she got stuck in an ecchi scene. Later, Jabril invited Stephanie into a bizarre otherworldly kitchen, where she was prepping her master's food. Since she didn't remember her name, Jabril called her Dora, reminding Stephanie of when she was treated like a dog. Realizing she could cook for Sora, Stephanie remembered how flustered she felt whenever he appreciated her. When Jabril asked if she was in love, Stephanie freaked out, smashing her head against the table, but Jabril wasn't letting her off the hook, pointing out that she'd already fallen for him. Meanwhile, Korome was taking a bath when her elf friend stopped by with food. After dressing, she asked her friend how the city was under the new leadership. The elf explained that Stephanie and the new rulers had improved food quality and even won over a Flugel to help with Elkia. Back in the library, Stephanie offered donuts, hoping to impress Sora, but his mind was elsewhere, deep in thought about claiming his werebeast harem. Jabril explained the werebeast's backstory and how their priestess leader stopped a civil war. When Sora asked Jabril to join their conquest by giving knowledge on the werebeasts, she refused, admitting she didn't see any way to win, and she already lost to them once. At Korome's place, she told her elf friend she suspected Blank was working with the werebeasts, explaining how they managed to defeat them and conquer a Flugel. Her anger flared as she recalled her confrontation with Sora, accusing him of hypocrisy for relying on other races. Back in the library, Sora was stuck because he didn't know how to beat opponents who could read minds. Jabril explained that the werebeasts forced challengers to bet their memories as well, making it nearly impossible to strategize for a rematch. Sora kept studying the map, wondering how the werebeasts controlled so much territory. Shiro chimed in with knowledge from her books, but all Sora could think about was the variety of animal bitches he could have if they beat the werebeasts. Jabril cut off Stephanie's attempt to escape the conversation and set up a magical circle, teleporting everyone to the werebeast embassy, formerly the Elkian castle. This confirmed Sora's suspicions. Humanity lost the most to the werebeasts over the last decade, losing most their territory in the process. Back at the library, Sora vented about how foolish the previous king was, losing 8 times and half their land. When Stephanie defended her grandfather, Sora quickly shut her down, saying with actions that dumb, it's impossible to defend him. Stephanie tried again, but Sora's harassing took a surprising toll, making her cry and run off. Realizing Steph was upset, Shiro offered Sora a donut, hinting that maybe he'd been a bit too mean. Later that day, Stephanie held a key, reminiscing about her grandfather, who told her it was the key of hope that he'd passed down when the time was right. Lost in thought, Jabril appeared, startling Steph, then invited her back to the library to understand Sora's plans. Bothered by the interruption, Stephanie followed. In the library, Stephanie overheard Sora talking to Jabril. Sora theorized that the old king wasn't as foolish as everyone believed. He thought there had to be a reason for the king's repeated attempts, and Jibril started to see his logic. When asked if he believed in humanity's chances, Sora said no, calling humans bummy dumbasses, vulgar, and a burden on each other. This crushed Stephanie, but before she could leave, Sora clarified. He believed in humanity's potential, using Shiro as an example of genius. Sora explained how meeting Shiro for the first time changed his perspective, as she saw through his fake smile. This inspired him to support the misunderstood genius. Stephanie is intrigued and continued to listen, as Sora pondered the king's actions. Jibril switched to nightlight mode to assist in Sora's studies, and Stephanie finally revealed herself and offered him something she thought might help. Later, they headed to the palace master bedroom with the key, which Sora suspected was the key to the king's hentai chamber. Earlier, they noticed the bed was lopsided and fell off, triggering a chain of events. They used the key on the secret door and it works. Inside was a utopia, and at the center, a journal. Sora read it, finally understanding the old king's actions. The king never lost his memories but figured out a way to defeat the werebeasts. However, due to an agreed arrangement under the pledges, he couldn't reveal it as long as he lived. But now that he's 6 feet deep, it's a different story. The king bet the kingdom and his life on the next rulers, expecting them to be great gamblers, which was why he hosted the tournament. Sora figured the king might have been senile, but he was still sharp enough to plan for the kingdom's future. And after apologizing to Steph, Sora handed her the journal. She cried tears of joy, realizing her grandfather wasn't just a foolish old man after all. The next day, the crew headed to the werebeast embassy, where they were greeted by the deputy, Ino. He confirmed they were here to meet the ambassador, Izuna, which shocked Stephanie. It seemed like they'd already read their minds. After Sora accepted, Ino led them through the Grand Embassy, a place so impressive that the Imminitian castle looked like dog shit in comparison. As they neared the elevator, they passed by a video display, which caught Stephanie's interest and triggered Jibril's curiosity. On the ride up, Ino reminded Sora to schedule an appointment next time, mentioning how lots of werebeasts were mad at humanity because of their rivalry. When Sora asked why, Stephanie explained the remodeling wars, a long-standing competition between the two nations, to show who has the bigger dick, which the werebeasts always won. Sora and Jibril bantered with Ino about the rivalry until they finally arrived at the meeting floor. At the table, Jibril asked how Sora managed to contact the werebeasts, begging for answers. Sora pulled out his phone, showing it to Jibril discreetly, revealing he simply waved at Ino, betting the werebeasts would sense him due to their enhanced abilities. Soon, Ino returned with the ambassador, lowly Izuna, who immediately captivated the siblings with her cuteness. They aggressively cuddled the adorable girl, only for her to rudely ask, "Who told you filthy peasants you can touch me?" Taken aback, they ran off, taking points away from her cuteness rating. But she wanted more pets, and after she called them back, her surprisingly swole grandpa, Ino, warned them to keep their hands off his granddaughter. Naturally, they ignored him and snuggled her again. After they got that out of their system, the meeting started. Ino asked what they wanted, but Sora refused to answer, pointing out that the werebeasts could read their minds anyway. Ino reminded him that diplomacy required details, so Sora laid out his plan. Jibril couldn't resist and started poking fun at Ino, teasing Ino's immaturity and inability to use magic. Ino fired back, calling her kind weak and mindless, but Sora shut it down and moved things along by challenging him to a competition. His granddaughter's panties on the line, with Stephanie's panties as their wager. Ino lost his temper, feeling insulted, but Sora doubled down, offering Jibril's panties instead, making Ino even more furious. When Ino refused to back down, Sora calmly explained that he knew the werebeasts couldn't read minds, otherwise they'd take the bet. They were just cold reading, something Sora was familiar with. This shocked Ino, who now realized Sora was serious. Sora and Shiro then stepped up, issuing a formal challenge to the werebeasts, declaring they would use them as a stepping stone toward world domination. They raised the stakes, requesting the return of their confiscated territory, while still wagering Stephanie's panties. When Jibril asked how they could win, Sora revealed the werebeasts' half-century-old scheme. He explained that the werebeasts created a game where they had the upper hand, erasing their opponent's memories to keep the advantage. This trick had fooled even the elves. When Jibril didn't recognize the video player on the first floor, it confirmed that her memory of it had been wiped as part of the game. Sora then unraveled how the old king managed to challenge the werebeasts multiple times without losing hope. He used a loophole in their agreed pledge, turning the tables on them. With that off his chest, Sora bet the entire humanity race on the game, summoning their race piece, causing a magical glow across the people of humanity. Korame and her friend take notice and explain that losing a race piece loses your rights as an exceed, and the pledges no longer apply, making you basically the same as cattle. It's a death sentence. Ino was stunned and asked if Sora was really ready to take on the creators of a game using their own rules. Sora confidently declared that blank doesn't take L's, not to cheaters or cheap tricks. With the terms set, Sora asked the embassy to pass their challenge on to the werebeast leader, and the group left the embassy. Back home, Stephanie ranted at Sora and Shiro for putting 3 million lives at risk, but the siblings were more focused on the prospect of owning Werebeast territory. Jabril tried to explain the situation to Stephanie, but Blank was lost in their own thoughts, ignoring her. A week later, protesters erupted in Elkia, with citizens outraged that their new rulers gambled with their future. In the castle, Sora and Shiro waited for a response from the Werebeasts, indifferent to the chaos outside. Then something unexpected happened. Sora began fading away from Shiro's eyes. Before leaving, he promised Shiro that he'd come back to her, and when Shiro tried to grab him, he vanished, leaving her devastated. Shiro woke up later, crying for her brother's return, but Stephanie appeared, wondering what was wrong. When Shiro checked her phone and realized she had no contact with Sora, she frantically asked Stephanie where he was. To her shock, Stephanie had no memory of him at all. Back when Shiro was young, she was taken to a genius institution before she could even walk, so all she knew was constant testing and dull games 24/7. But at 3 years old, her estranged mother introduced her to her brother, Sora, and she immediately noticed he hid his bitterness behind a fake smile and called him out on it, shocking Sora and creating a spark between them. After that, she found joy playing games with him, having way more fun than anything the Genius Center could offer. Now in this new world, memories of her special brother began to fade, causing Shiro to panic for the first time in her life. Her world went dark, and she rushed to their room, hoping to find him, but there was no trace of Sora. Then Jabril appeared, asking what was wrong. When Shiro asked about the Blank's past, Jabril was confused. She only remembered Shiro as her single master, the genius gamer who beat her and took over the library. Jabril left puzzled. Then Stephanie asked Jabril who Shiro was upset about, but she had no record of any pervy master. The pair speculated that Shiro lost to the Werebeasts and that her memories had been altered. Jabril offered to play a game with Shiro betting false memories, suggesting that taking the L might reset the memories. Shiro agreed, not knowing what else to do. While playing, Shiro started doubting herself, wondering if her memories of Sora were actually fake. But just as she was about to give in, a memory of Sora stopped her, and she knew she couldn't fall for the illusion. She pulled herself together and declared Blank takes no L's, winning the game and declaring her belief in Blank's existence as the world regained its color. Jabril asked why she didn't lose, and Shiro confidently replied that Blank never loses, unless to one another. Stephanie, meanwhile, started considering that Sora might actually exist, but couldn't figure out why they had no memory of him. Still, she trusted Shiro, knowing she'd never lose to a stinky werebeast. As Stephanie and Jabril bickered, Shiro thought of a way to convince them. She asked what they remembered doing the day before. When they answered, she pointed out the date, reminding them they were thinking of the 19th but had no memory of the 20th. Shiro then teased Stephanie by boating the biddies, asking why it didn't feel special. When Stephanie couldn't answer, Shiro explained that it wasn't me you fell for after the game in the tavern, but I would argue she just needs a little bit more warming up. Now that she had them on board, Shiro was on a roll. She started piecing together how Sora could have erased his existence. She remembered him saying they were one, and suddenly she began hearing his voice from various places. Digging deep into her memories, she recalled their last conversation before passing out. In her mind, Shiro saw Sora betting his existence in a game with Korame, aiming to win over her elf friend Fi. Korame was determined not to lose and staked their existence like a maniac. The winner would get 2 demands, but Sora had a hidden plan to make things easier for himself. When Shiro woke up, she still couldn't find any trace of Sora. She asked Jabril if it was possible to set up a game that bet on memories. Jabril thought it was impossible, outside the realm of common sense. But when Shiro pressed her, asking if an elf could be involved, Jabril reluctantly admitted it was possible. Stephanie assumed Sora lost, which explained his disappearance. But Shiro wasn't convinced. She asked Jabril to scan the room for magic, checking if the game was still active. Jabril summoned magic circles and scanned until she detected hidden magic. Stephanie, trying to investigate, tripped over nothing, making Jabril laugh at her clumsiness. But Shiro noticed something important: game pieces scattered on the floor. When Stephanie asked why they could see the game pieces, Shiro explained it was because Blank was one person, and Sora hadn't played those pieces yet, meaning she could still continue the game. Sora had added a condition that if one player couldn't go on, their partner would take over. Shiro knew Sora intentionally lost to show Korame his plan and clear the way for her to finish it. Shiro played the final pieces, revealing the rest of the board and triggering a chain reaction. As the last tile fell, their room transformed into a game board with holes appearing everywhere, amazing everyone viewing it. Shiro won the game and Sora reappeared, much to his sister's joy. Sora asked Shiro to hit him for being careless, but she hugged him instead, apologizing for not winning sooner. After their reunion, Sora approached the lifeless Korame, who was being mourned by Fi, and Fi begged him to leave Korame alone, but Sora had other plans. He made his first demand, to share all his memories with Korame, and vice versa. She immediately woke up, and Jabril deduced that Sora did it to gain Korame's trust, while also gaining access to the elf. For his second demand, he demanded the right to alter Fi's memories when needed. When she panicked, Korame reassured her, knowing she could trust him. With the bet settled, Sora suddenly falls on his sister in a very suggestive way, and they agree to start at any time. They take a deep breath and burst out crying and hugging each other. Simultaneously, Korome and Fee did the same, vowing never to make such risky bets again, while Stephanie and Jabril watched the strange reunion unfold. The next day, while the Elkians protested, Blank held a meeting with all their new allies. Sora declared a state of emergency, saying they needed everyone for a special task. When Stephanie asked what the task was, Sora yelled out, "Let's get intimate," disappointing everyone. He asked Korome to go first, and she hesitated, only giving her name. But Sora ain't having that, and he started blabbing all the secrets from her memories, saying she wet the bed till she was 13. She has hentai mags under her bed, and she still wears a training bra. She freaks out to stop him, then suggested Fee gets introduced first, calling her a childhood friend. Fee promptly introduced herself as Fee Neil Villain, and stated that everyone except Jabril could just call her Fee. Jabril asked why she was excluded, so Fee reminded her of the time Jabril attacked her city, killing millions. Jabril tried to defend herself, saying there was a no-flight spell over their city that made her fall and hit her head pretty hard, blaming the city for bringing on her wrath. But Sora called her bullshit and he declared her guilty. He then asked what it would take for Fee to forgive Jabril, and Fee demanded that Jabril lick her boot while begging for forgiveness. Jabril said, "Hell to the no, to the no. But Sora commanded her to do it to prevent any more fighting, so she begrudgingly complied. Once it was over, both Fee and Jabril were satisfied in their own weird ways. After watching them settle their differences, Stephanie tried to charge Korome with cheating during their match, but Sora just called her a dumbass for falling for it in the first place. Finally, Korome continued her introduction, explaining that Fee was from a line of senators, while she came from a slave family under Fee's household. Fee was the only one who treated Korome as a person, which led to them becoming close friends, though they kept their relationship secret from their society that frowned upon interracial bonds. However, now that Fee is a senator, she's working to abolish slavery. Stephanie asked if that would be considered treason, and Blank was shocked that Steph actually kept up with the conversation, upsetting Steph. Fee, however, didn't care about treason. Her loyalty was to Korome. When Korome changed the topic and asked what the plan was for the werebeasts, Sora led them to a special door, saying it would boost their teamwork. Korome immediately guessed it was a bathhouse and refused to join, accusing Sora of ulterior motives. Sora tried to convince her, but Fee chimed in, teasing that Korome's B-cup status was the real reason she didn't want to bathe with them. Irritated, Korome stepped in to prove her wrong. Inside the bath, Stephanie fought with Jabril over the Hetnai shampoo, while Korome half-heartedly flaunted her body. Sora, meanwhile, started fantasizing about the scene, especially after recalling how Korome cried like a baby when she lost to them before. When Sora asked Fee what magic she used to enhance Korome's body, Korome dove into the water in embarrassment, realizing she's been exposed. Meanwhile, Jabril used Sora's phone to record the bath for later, while Sora cried in despair, wishing he could magically turn into a girl to fully enjoy the view. Elsewhere, the werebeast leaders were plotting. The priestess left Azuna in charge of defeating a manatee and putting them in their place. Later that day, Korome visited the royal room, hoping to find the rulers working on something sensible, but found no one. When she checked the hidden passage, she saw Sora and Shiro reading and playing games. She questioned if they could really defeat the werebeasts, but Sora reassured her, saying he was just backup for Shiro. He claimed Blank was too good at games to lose to mere werebeasts. Korome, however, was concerned, knowing from Sora's memories that they barely scraped by in most of their wins. Sora comforted her, saying that with Shiro by his side, they don't have to worry about anything because they have each other's. 6. This triggered a memory of Fee, making Korome blush. In return, she said that anyone can change their fate, triggering a memory of Shiro, making Sora blush and push her out of the room. The next day, the game was set to begin, but the Elkians were still protesting outside the palace gates, trying to talk sense into their leaders. As the royal carriage emerged, the crowd backed off, intimidated by Jabril spreading her wings from the carriage, as per Sora's plan to rile up the citizens even more. When they arrived at the embassy, Ino welcomed them and led them to the familiar waiting room. After confirming the audience seating was ready, the Blank prepared for the game. Sora reminded Stephanie of Amanity's previous losing streak and decided not to repeat those mistakes. Then he told Jabril to block all forms of eavesdropping as they set up their strategy. Soon, the game began. It was a 1v4 battle. Amanity's race piece was on the line, while the werebeasts wagered the territory they'd taken from the previous king. Both sides swore the oath, and Ino activated the game crystals. Sora, always thinking ahead, asked Azuna to enjoy the game for the first time in a while, surprising her with how much he seemed to know. As the game initiated, Sora and Shiro held hands, determined to beat the werebeasts. Their bodies slowly faded as they entered the game world. Just then, Ino sensed something. A magical presence. He spotted Korome and an elf at the venue and realized that Sora was a much tougher opponent than expected. Suspecting he allied with the elves, like a bitch, he could only hope Azuna would handle them. When they finally spawned in the game, Blank was shocked to find themselves in a world resembling their home, Tokyo. The game targeted their biggest weakness, reality, and suddenly Blank is a whole bitch and a half, doomed to fail. The siblings were panicking, facing their worst nightmare. But when Ino appeared on a hologram and welcomed them to the game, Sora realized this wasn't the real Tokyo, but a VR game. He snapped out of it, yelling at the werebeast for triggering them. Seeing Shiro still shaken, Sora calmed her down, reminding her it was just a game. With that, she regained her composure. Now ready to play, Blank asked Ino to start the game, and the old man explained the rules. They were given a love gun to shoot werebeast NPCs, which would replenish their love meter and increase their ammo. If someone on their team got shot, they'd become a love slave for the enemy until their team won them back. Testing things out, Sora shot several werebeasts to refill his meter, while the useless Stephanie got snuggled by NPCs, sucking out her love, leaving her with almost no ammo. After escaping the suckers, Sora asked what would happen if teammates shot each other, but before Ino could explain, Shiro shot Sora no hesi, turning him into her love slave, then immediately began acting out their questionable love dynamic. Jibril also took advantage and shot Shiro, creating the love triangle she always wanted. Meanwhile, all of humanity realized their leaders are morons and they're all doomed. Suddenly the siblings snap out of it, and just then, Stephanie came running back, asking why she was left behind. Instead of answering, Sora shot her, making her fall in love with him. Then he had her shoot the ground, and the love bullet rebounded, hitting her back in the head and making her fall in love with herself. With the info he needed, Sora, Shiro, and Jibril ditched Stephanie to begin the game. Meanwhile, Korame and Fi kept an eye on the game, checking if the werebeasts were using any illegal magic tricks, and Korame couldn't figure out how they planned to beat beings who moved so quickly. Back in the game, Izuna remembered Sora's dumb comment about enjoying the game, fueling her anger as she took out her frustration on the surrounding NPCs. She was determined to get rid of the Imanician fool who was trying to mess with her mind. Sora, still experimenting, shot at the clothes of an NPC, hoping the panties would disappear, but instead the whole NPC vanished, disappointing him and everyone watching. While Sora messed around, Izuna was growing furious that he wasn't taking the game seriously despite having his race on the line. Suddenly, Izuna sensed a presence. It was Shiro. Setting her sights on her target, Izuna fired, expecting to take Shiro down. But Shiro, with incredible skill, deflected the bullets with her own. From a distance, Sora explained that Shiro was the top-ranked first-person shooter in their previous world, making her a natural at this game. As Shiro dodged Izuna's attacks with ease, Izuna panicked and jumped out of a window, only to find Jibril waiting to shoot from above. Izuna tossed a bomb to create an obstruction and dodged the attacks, managing to shoot Jibril mid-fall. Out of nowhere, a shot almost hit Izuna, but she dodged it thanks to her sixth sense, sacrificing her robe in the process. Another shot landed on Jibril, who continued to fall. When she landed, Sora shot her back to normal. Korame and Fi were amazed by the battle, wondering if the werebeast truly had a sixth sense that let Izuna dodge Sora's bullet. Back in the game, the team regrouped, and Sora suspected the werebeasts were cheating, claiming it's their sixth sense to avoid disqualification, but he didn't know how. Meanwhile, Ino was secretly communicating with Izuna, giving away their position, allowing Izuna to launch a surprise attack, hoping to wipe them all out. Later that night, the team hid in a park, having sacrificed some clothes in the ambush. Shiro brainstormed strategies to defeat Izuna, but suddenly, Stephanie appeared under the influence of Izuna's love gun, but Sora quickly shot her down, wondering why he even brought her along. Meanwhile, Izuna camped out in another zone, reflecting on Sora's words about enjoying the game. Looking in the mirror, she realized she actually might be having fun. In the park, Jibril questioned if Shiro's calculations would work, but Sora confidently told her to shut her filthy witch mouth. "My sister got this." Shiro completed her calculations and told Sora it was time for him to carry the team. She suddenly took a surprise bullet from Izuna, leaving Jibril to carry Sora and flee. When Jibril asked if all hope was lost, Sora explained that the end result of Shiro's overcalculated plan was blank, meaning they were the solution. Or maybe it just means they don't have a plan, and she said f*** it. He tasked Jibril with stalling Izuna while he handled Shiro. Jibril ascended a building to confront Izuna, charging up to take revenge for her earlier defeat. Meanwhile, Sora faced off with Shiro, noticing that she was moving slower than usual. With that, he bet everything on a hunch and climbed to the top of the building. Shiro fired multiple shots, but Sora ran straight on, and all the bullets missed because it's the last thing she'd expect. He tackled Shiro and jumped off the building, shooting her mid-air. As they fell, Ino urged Izuna to shoot them while they were vulnerable, but a bomb and a bullet knocked her gun away. Izuna then noticed Shiro had no underwear, meaning Sora hadn't actually shot his sister. Shiro had been pretending to be under Izuna's control the whole time. Izuna, thinking she had one last trick, summoned Jibril, but Jibril's bullet ricocheted off a shot from blank, leaving Izuna wide open. Realizing she was cornered, Izuna charged up into her beast mode, admitting she was finally enjoying a game for the first time in a while. Izuna's now moving 10 times faster, easily running circles around them. The werebeast grabbed her gun and charged at the siblings, forcing Sora to block her shots with his shoes. As they crashed, Sora grabbed Shiro and tried to run, but Izuna was blitzing them with ease. the onlookers realized Izuna reached the legendary state of Bloodbreak, transcending physical limitations. She chased Blank from place to place, bouncing off buildings and limiting their movements. Sora quickly figured out this power-up was the Werebeast cheat, something Ino asked his granddaughter to keep hidden until the right moment. When Izuna cornered them in an open space, Sora made a last-ditch charge, hoping his final tactic would take down the wild beast. He ran head-on, avoiding her bullets much like he did with Shiro, but then she shot one straight on, and he deflected it. However, he didn't expect a second shot straight on, and it knocked him out while the ricochet bullet hit Shiro, and it's checkmate. The siblings were down, and Izuna declared her victory. Her proud grandfather looked on, but suddenly a bullet struck Izuna, knocking her out of the game.
Sora!
To everyone's shock, Stephanie fired the winning shot, securing Elkia's victory. Sora and Shiro stood up, pleased that their plan worked, and thanked Stephanie for her cooperation. Blank explained that they used a commandment oath to ensure Stephanie would end up in the right place to shoot. With the previous win, he told her to follow any order Shiro wrote on the ground, then forget it right after reading it. She was told to wait until her energy was about to run out, then run straight ahead and shoot. Shiro deflected her bullet off Jibril's to hit not Izuna, but Stephanie, positioning her for the final shot, while being carried by an NPC that makes no sound. Blank made it clear they'd been in control the whole time. Blank don't take L's. After explaining how they won, Sora asked Ino to officially announce their victory and hand over the rewards. The old man had no choice but to comply, much to the joy of Elkia. Izuna, however, began to cry, upset that she lost and let down her people. But Blank comforted her, saying it was fine. She had fun, and that's what mattered. When Izuna asked if it was wrong to put her people at risk for enjoyment, Blank reassured her that she would have lost either way, but they acknowledged her as a friend. Grabbing their hands, Izuna vowed she would never lose to them again. The Elkians celebrated their leader's victory, realizing they had underestimated them all along, while Korra May and Fi left the venue, happy that Amanity was in competent hands. The next day, while Elkia held a carnival, the group celebrated in their usual spot, the bath. Shiro fondled Izuna's tail while Jibril kept an eye on them, making sure no one got soap in their eyes. When Jibril asked Izuna why she wasn't mad about hanging out with the people who beat her, Shiro explained that Sora told Izuna no one from the Eastern Federation will be hurt. Meanwhile, Swole as Ino warned Sora to stay away from Izuna. Sora brushed him off, calling the old man senile. Just then, Stephanie showed up with breaking news but slipped, giving Sora an accidental eyeful. She reported that the Werebeasts had moved their key facilities and tech before losing the land. But Sora's not surprised. It's a standard move, isn't that right, Shrine Priestess? The priestess reveals herself in the bath, agreeing with Sora, and shocking Ino with her presence. Later, the priestess invited Blank to the Eastern Federation for a discussion. At the castle, Sora and Shiro couldn't stop taking pictures of the elegant werebeast, much more appealing than the old fart from the embassy. The priestess told Blank she expected them to leak information to the elves, but she was curious why they involved Avant-Heim. Jibril explained that as a former high-ranking Flugel, she had some connections and pulled strings to make things happen. The priestess was furious that Blank put their secrets at risk and challenged Sora to a game on the spot. Sora accepted, and they chose a coin flip for the contest. The priestess laughed at the simplicity of the game. All this work and the fate of her people come down to a coin toss. She vowed to win no matter what, and they declared the stakes. Sora wanted the werebeast to become part of the Elkian Commonwealth, while the priestess wanted to keep their rights and share resources with the Elkians. She also requested that if she lost, the werebeasts, including Ino and Izuna, would be protected under Elkia. When the bets were placed, Sora asked the priestess to choose her side of the coin before it landed. When he tossed the coin, she quickly crashed out into Bloodbreak mode to predict the outcome using kinetic sight and chose tails. But when the coin landed, it got lodged in a crack, creating a draw. Izuna laughed, realizing Sora was a damn cheat. Sora proposed a solution where both sides won. Elkia would absorb the werebeasts, while the werebeasts kept their rights and shared resources. Seeing it was a fair offer, the priestess agreed. When Ino asked Sora why he didn't want to crush the werebeasts, Sora explained that he could never live with himself if he wiped out so many beautiful animal girls. How else would he create his harem? The priestess is still puzzled and asked how they could win when Sora revealed their secrets to the other nations. Sora explained that he used a previous bet to alter the elves' memories, so the information given to the other nations wasn't entirely accurate. Realizing they got the best possible deal, the priestess happily accepted the Eastern Federation's new status as part of the Elkian Commonwealth. The next day, the priestess asked Blank what their ultimate goal was, and they told her they aimed to defeat Tet, the god of discord. When she asked why they didn't take the werebeast race piece to do it, Blank explained that stripping race pieces wasn't the right approach. Their goal was to collect all the race pieces through proper games, not by taking them forcefully. Meanwhile, Tet continued to watch things unfold, thrilled that Blank understood the nature of the world and looked forward to an all-out battle. If you've made it this far, you probably enjoyed this video, so watch this next one. Till next time, Nimbus out.